Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my video for good contact techniques. I'm going to now continue this for part 2 of this validations. Alright, for good contact techniques, now we're talking crisis counselor. So what are validations? Validations are a good contact technique that requires expressing to the texter that they're feeling or experiences are legitimate and understandable. Why do validations work? Validations are a way to accept a texter's emotions in crisis without judgment. They give the texter space and permission to feel the way they feel. Validations let you thoughtfully show the texter you're here to support them. When to use validations? This technique is best used when the texter is best described as difficult emotion or challenging experience. It lets the texter know that their feelings and experiences are normal, and there is nothing wrong with them feeling that way. For example, if a texter shared that they just lost their job and they're feeling devastated, that we validate that it's normal to feel distraught after a loss. Validations like strong feeling words are helpful to use texters to try to minimize their feelings. For instance, if a texter says it's stupid for me to feel upset about losing a job, we can validate to make sense to feel upset in that situation. How to use validations. Validations are often used to preface the difficult emotions, thoughts, experiences, texture to hoping to recognize and normalize. Common validating phrases are like, it makes sense to feel, it's normal to be, it's reasonable to feel, and it's understandable that. Example using validations. All right. Example transcript. Texter. It's stupid for me to feel this way. They ignore what I all do at the time. Volunteer crisis counselor would say, it's normal to be frustrated with your parents when they just don't want to listen to you. All right. Second one, validations in action. Volunteer crisis counselor, it's normal to be frustrated when you don't feel heard by your parents. Volunteer crisis counselor would say also, from what you are saying, it's understandable you don't feel comfortable opening up to your parents. Volunteer crisis counselor will also say, from what you've been saying about the fight, it makes sense that you're feeling overwhelmed and upset. Takeaways for validations. For validations to be effective, they should be specific, connect to the validating phrase of the thoughts, feelings of the experiences so that it makes more meaningful to their situation. Be sure to avoid normalizing negative sentiments or behavior. All right, that's in Spanish. All right, list of validations. Below is a list of phrases to help validate how texters are feeling about their crises. Validations. Going through blank, blank, blank can be intense. It can be awful too. It can be overwhelming too. It can be confusing when it makes sense too. It makes sense why you're feeling. It's natural too. It's normal too. It's normal to feel. It's normal, reasonable too. It's understandable that it's understandable to feel. That's a difficult situation. That's a lot of person to handle. There's no wonder that you're going through a lot. And again, that's in Spanish. Select the best answer for the choice provided, then click the record for your response. What is the goal of using validation? The goal is to change a texter's mind about their feelings. Oh no, it's to normalize the texter's emotions to reduce shame. True. Correct. Okay, everyone, I'm back. So, strength IDs. What are strength IDs? Strength IDs are a good contact technique that requires connecting a positive trait into an action that the texter has taken. Why do strength IDs work? Strength IDs point out the positive in texter's actions. People in crisis focus on the negatives. So it's useful to remind them the positive things that they are doing. For instance, it takes courage to reach out support. Strength IDs like this can guide texters toward a more receptive to help them reflect their inherent strengths back to them. This could help also alleviate feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. When to use strength IDs. This technique is most effective when the texter shares details about their experience. This helps build trust and empower the texters to work toward the next steps. You could truly use strength ID at any time during the conversation. Even so, it's effective to praise a texter with a strength ID that you cannot tie it to a visible action. For example, saying that you're a good friend wouldn't be appropriate if the texter has mentioned anything to make them seem that supported to their friends. We do not want these words to feel empty. Always tie the strength ID back to something the texter has shared or done. How to use strength IDs. Strength IDs should not be used to connect a positive trait into the action the texter has taken. For instance, if the texter says it was stupid to text in, you wouldn't say you're not stupid, you're smart. Texters who think they're stupid will not believe you. You could instead say, I see someone who reached out for help and shows that how smart and insightful you really are. Example using strength IDs. The texter would say, I'm terrified right now. My uncle was diagnosed with cancer and was not looking good. I heard that they don't have enough money for hospital bills and I wish I could help him. I'm in school. I was stuck. Volunteer crisis counselors say you care greatly about your uncle and carrying a weight of his pain. You seem like a thoughtful person. Example, strength IDs in action. Texter would say, yeah, I probably would sign up for a personal finance class and get the debt under control. Volunteer crisis counselor would say, yeah, that is a great next step. Your ability to come up with a really solid idea should help you creative you are. And here is some list of strength IDs. For example, message. It takes a real lot of courage to text you for XYZ. Courage. It takes real strength to make your ability to priority strength. I can tell that you have great insight because you're able to identify this is a problem and you're willing to work on it. It's inspiring and much you work you're putting into getting help for yourself. It shows true compassion to reach out of concern for your friend. You're resilient in dealing with XYZ for so long. I could tell you're self-aware by how well you know yourself and willing what you're going through. I can tell how committed you are to getting the support you deserve. I appreciate your bravery. I know you're not easy to share these things. You're smart for identifying what you could not help you feel better. The fact that you care so much about XYZ says a lot about your character. I could tell you're putting a lot of effort into XYZ. Okay, moving on. Open-ended questions. Okay, everyone. So we are now talking about open-ended questions. What are open-ended questions? Open-ended questions are a good contact technique that requires asking questions that start with what, how, when, what, there, who, create a room of texture to expand the situation and feelings. Why do open-ended questions work? As we create a safe and open space, textures tell their stories. Open-ended questions show textures that are interested in understanding what they are going through. We avoid closed-ended questions unless we need just a yes or no response, since the limit is how much a texture can share. When use open-ended questions. Open-ended questions can use throughout the conversation. They are useful to need to understand a texture's feelings and thoughts better. Have a look at the 3 different responses of the same text below. The first example uses an open-ended question, leaving a room of textures to open up more. Although the second example shows an open-ended question, it shows how asking why can you perceive a critical and judgmental. Lastly, the third example shows that how closed-ended questions can lead to a texture to provide a response of little insight. How to use open-ended questions. The most effective open-ended questions to start is how, when, why, what, where, who. Use open-ended questions together with good contact techniques. Remember to add not to ask why questions, as they may be perceived as judgmental and accusatory. Asking multiple questions in a row. Avoid asking too many questions in a row. That if the texter has a lot of questions, it might take them to feel that they are being interviewed or interrogated. We recommend not to make any more than 2 questions in a row unless you're getting a specific information from a texter. You will learn as much more as 3 times where this might be necessary later on. From now on, avoid the trap of asking a question in every single message, or even worse, multiple questions in one message. So example, asking an open-ended question. Example would be, texter, my stepsister banned me existence. I stopped talking to her. My parents are upset. Volunteer crisis counselor would say, it sounds like just a stepsister is really upsetting you. Who has been done to make you feel frustrated? Texter would say, she is always thinking bad about me to her friends. Open-ended questions take away. Asking for more information allows the texter to expand their feelings, and an empathetic statement gives them the depth of them to the message. Okay, that's in Spanish. Another one is example, asking a why question. Texter, my stepsister is banned from my existence. I stopped talking to her now and my parents are upset. Volunteer crisis counselor would say, it sounds like your stepsister is really upsetting you. Why you stop talking to your stepsister? Texter says, you don't understand. I know she is my sister, but she hates me. Takeaway open-ended questions. Why questions are sound accusatory to the texter of the crisis is not their fault. Asking a different way to let them explain to feeling guilty of what is happening in the moment. All right. Last one. Example. Asking a close-ended question. Texter. My stepsister is a bane of my existence. I stopped talking to her until my parents are getting upset. Volunteer crisis counselor. It sounds like your stepsister is really upsetting you. Did she do something to you? Yes. Texter said, yes, she did. Takeaway, closed-ended question. Closed-ended questions is like this. Typically, we resolve them with single words, such example as yes or no, and gleaming at the room of the texter to expand about their situation. And that is it of this section right here. What is the best example? Open-ended question. Why are you feeling that way? Oh, I think it's... Oh, yeah. Are you okay? What's been going on lately? Yeah, that one, of course. All right, so now it's at the conclusion now. Now, that's the end of Module 6 for Good Contact Techniques chart. So here are the key takeaways here. All right. Glossary, the terms that we learned during this term again, I'll go over it in a second again, the terms. All right, so the key takeaways: good contact techniques help volunteers demonstrate empathy, clarity, and support. Use reflection to show understanding by paraphrasing. Use strong feeling words to match texter's emotional tone. Use tentifiers to avoid assumptions to explore feelings gently. Use validation to normalize feelings and create safety. Use strengthened IDs to empower texters by highlighting positive traits based on their actions. Use open-ended questions to invite deeper sharing and avoid limiting responses. Glossary. Good contact techniques. 6 communication techniques to respond to texters effectively. Open-ended questions. A good contact technique that requires asking questions to start what, how, when, where, who, to create the room the texter to expand the situation of their feelings. Parroting, to repeat or someone says word for word. Reflection. A good contact technique is require paraphrasing to the texter to share without repeating said for word for word. Strength ID. A good contact technique that requires connecting of the positive trait to action the texter has taken to courage, strength, and insightful resilience. Strong feeling words. A good contact technique that requires choosing an emotion that matches the intensity of the texter's description of their experience. Horrified, isolate, ashamed. Tentifier. A good contact technique that requires adding a phrase at the beginning of the response to inform the texter that message is interpretation of the situation. I get that impression that. Validation. A good contact technique that requires expressing the texter the feelings experience is legitimate and understandable. It makes full sense. It makes sense to feel. And that will be the end of this module. Now I'm taking the module survey. It will ask me at the end of every module, take the survey, and I will respond accordingly. Submit, and the section is done. So that is the end of module 6.